Hey guys, welcome to the show today. Man, listen, I don't know about you, but I just enjoy life. I love having a good time, but I like it even more when I've got money in my pocket. I don't know how you feel, but I don't like being broke. I don't like being poor. And man, in 2023, life is scary when it comes to finances. I mean, what do we do with our money? It's like a magic trick. You put it in the bank or you give it to the government and it is gone. I don't know what to do with it. People are asking me all the time, where do you invest your money? Of course, I own a film company. If you want to talk about throwing money away, we could talk about that. Thankfully, we've been able to be pretty wise on that and not go crazy. We haven't quite done a $250 million budget film yet, like Indiana Jones, who completely tanked. But Hollywood's got a lot of money they can waste, and so we can let them keep wasting that. But today I've got a special guest named Kirk Elliott, who is going to help us understand what we should do with our money, where we should put it, kind of tell us what's going on in our society today. And this is the big question. What do we do? I think you all are feeling like me. Can we trust our government? I don't know that we can. Can we trust the banking system? Now, there are some great people that work in the banking system. I have good friends that work at banks. I love them. But man, in the just general sense, it's a scary world out there. And I want to help you today get a little cash, not only as you put it in coming back, but even more than that, investing in something that's going to allow you to have the most solid future. So stick around. We've got a great show ahead today. Thank you for joining us. Hey everybody, and want to thank you for joining us today. I'm super excited about our guest that is joining us today. Kirk Elliott has an awesome organization. And one of the things today that we find is it's a little scary when you think about finances, you think about money, you think about what to do. I mean, honestly, who would have thought that it would kind of freak you out to go to Taco Bell and see that they're going to charge you $10 for a combo meal? That's all I'm saying. $10 for food that you know is not real food. You know it's not going to do you good, and it's going to cost you $10. I mean, maybe if you get some off the 99-cent menu, I get it, but come on now. But that's the kind of day we're living in. People are wondering, what do I do with my money? How should I spend it? What's going to happen? I mean, man, if we could somehow reach into the future and find out what's going to happen, it'd be nice to know. But I'm glad there's people like Kirk Elliott who studies, really focuses on how we should spend our money, what we should do with it, and can give us great wisdom. Kirk Elliott PHD is a private advisor, and he's in the cutting edge consulting agency that redefines and reimagines what consulting is. His team rolls up their sleeves, they get into the world, and they blend what you need as a partner with their clients, and they make yesterday's dreams become today's reality. They believe in people over profit, and let's face it, companies that focus on profit will certainly leave people behind. And so we appreciate what Kirk Elliott and his team is doing. He's based out of Denver, Colorado. And Kirk, I want to tell you, thank you for joining us today. Man, it's a pleasure to have you on here.
Oh my word, it's so great to be with you, Ben. I'm excited. I've been looking forward to this show for all week, right? So it's just really good. And all those nice things you said about me, that's awesome. Thank you so much. But it really is all about people, right? It's like yesterday somebody asked me this weird question, and truly it like threw me off guard. It's like, was Jesus a Republican or a Democrat? It's like, okay, here we go. How do you answer that? Okay, so the answer is interesting.
Because American politics was around 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, but here's the philosophy behind the politics was around, right? It's like, so Jesus tells us, oh, you don't work, you don't eat. Okay, Jesus was a Republican. Oh, but then Acts says that all of those people sold everything they had to give to the poor. It's like, no, Jesus was a Democrat. It's like, so what is it? And only in God's math can you have 100% you don't work, you don't eat, 100% you work and you give to the poor, right? So there's this in man's math that doesn't matter. It's like either or. No, in God's world it's different, because if you focus 100% on truth, you eliminate grace. And if you focus and you're just mean, right? If you focus 100% on grace, well, then you kill truth. Right. So there's this life in the balance, and that's what we do with people's finances, right? Because you've got this interchange between politics and economics and the social world that we're living in, the spiritual dynamics of everything. And once you understand that, you can actually, with wisdom, be a wise steward with what God has given us. Buy low, sell high, minimize risk, maximize return, because all of those puzzle pieces, Ben, fit together. They really do. So for example, when we talk about our freedoms, people are up in arms that our freedoms are eroding, our political freedoms, our economic freedoms, our religious freedoms, our health freedoms. It's like, yeah, they are. But here's the ugly part about that statement is, if you lose one of them, you lose all of them, right? Because if you lose your political freedom, well, then you're not going to have economic freedom, religious freedom, or health freedom. If you lose your economic freedom, you're not going to be afforded to have anything else, right? If you lose your religious freedom, you're not going to have a moral compass for all of the other freedoms to exist, right? You lose one, you lose all. So this is why what we do financially, we can't, and I tell this to everybody all the time, it's like, we can't control a lot of that stuff. But what we can control is ourselves. At least most of us can, right? Some of us can't sometimes. But financially, it's a decision. We don't need a collective voice to change some politician's mind about something and change the world that we're living in. To change your finances, it's simple. It's a decision. I'm either going to act or I'm not going to act. I'm going to reallocate. I'm going to change. But what do we want to do? We want to act with wisdom and all of that to be in the right place at the right time, take advantage of the trends so the trends don't take advantage of us.
Are you searching for financial wisdom rooted in timeless principles? Then look no further. Kirk Elliott Financial Wealth Advisor Firm is the best blend of biblical insights with expert financial guidance to navigate the stormy waters of an economic uncertainty. Kirk Elliott, renowned for his financial acumen, is your trusted guide through these turbulent times. With years of experience and a passion for biblical principles, Kirk brings clarity and purpose to every financial decision. Whether you're facing market fluctuation or seeking to align your wealth with your values, Kirk Elliott has the answers you need. No matter your background or experience, Kirk's approach is both approachable and effective. He'll help you understand how to protect your assets and make wise investments while staying true to your beliefs. When you go with Kirk Elliott, you can be confident that your finances are in capable hands. Just mention my name, Pastor Ben Graham, and they'll take care of you at his firm. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Tune in to the Kirk Elliott Financial Wealth Advisory Firm podcast and equip yourself with the tools to make informed decisions in today's unpredictable world. Embrace biblical finances and embark on a journey towards prosperity and financial peace of mind. Subscribe now to Real Talk with Pastor Ben Graham podcast and get ready to thrive amidst an economic uncertainty. Remember, when you go with Kirk Elliott, you're choosing financial wisdom rooted in biblical principles. Take the first step towards a brighter financial future today.
So we look at that and we say, where is the world right now, right? So I'm a firm believer that there's no such thing as a bad investment. There's just bad timing for investments, right? Because if you look back to both the Reagan years or the Trump years as presidents, what were the defining economic policies? Lowering taxes, lowering interest rates, creating jobs. That causes the stock market to boom because people spend money. But if you fast forward to today, we've got a Congress and a president that actually does the opposite. We've got rising taxes, rising interest rates to slow down inflation that they're creating by funding every stimulus under the sun. And we have wage decline, not job growth. So if you have an opposite policy, you're going to have an opposite outcome. See, this is where politics, the puzzle pieces of politics, blend with economics and finance. It's like everything that we see and can invest in is going to grow or shrink because of policies coming out of DC. So we navigate through that. I don't care if we have a Republican or a Democrat in office. I want to know their policies, because once I know that, we can be in the right place at the right time and allocate into these trends. So right now, under this current administration, what's growing and what's shrinking, right? So when you have wage decline and these rising taxes and interest rates are going through the roof. Now, interest rates are not going to slow down, Ben. So you're hearing from Jerome Powell, chairman of the Fed, saying, hey, you know what? We're going to probably raise rates another quarter of a point in September, and then we get to go on pause because we've won the war on inflation. It's like, have you really when was the last time you went to the grocery store, Jerome Powell, right? I mean, our wallets tell us a different story, a completely different story. So the other day on Saturday, and I needed some caffeine. So I got booted out of the house because my daughter is getting married and she had a bridal shower. So the dog and I left because we were the only guys in the house. And I decided I'm going to go to the gas station and get, and I never go to the gas station and get anything, right? Ever. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to look, maybe I want a candy bar. Maybe I don't. I shouldn't because I'm on a diet, right? But I look, candy bars were like $4.39. So that answered my question. I'm not getting a candy bar because last time I looked, it was like $1.59 or something. It's like, what happened? What happened at the gas pumps? Gas in Denver is like $4.79 for a gallon. It's like, what? We're not winning the war on inflation. So this is where politics kind of intertwine with everything, because a lot of your viewers, I mean, I was just a kid back then, but in 1983, interest rates were 18% on a 30-year mortgage. 18. And it's like, but why? As a PhD economist, I always ask why. I don't care what the numbers are. I want to know why we got there, right? Well, during the Carter years, we had a huge recession. People weren't working. Inflation was gone through the roof. And you had an oil crisis and rationing at the gas pumps. I mean, it was bad, right? So Paul Volcker, chairman of the Fed, and President Reagan came in and said, we're going to fix this stupid inflation monster that we created. But the only way to do it is to raise rates higher than the current interest rates, or than the current inflation rate. So inflation at the time was 14.7%. That's why they had to raise interest rates to 18. Fast forward to 1996. President Clinton changed the way we measure inflation for political purposes. He said, hey, I don't want all these cost of living increases that we're sending out to people based on the official inflation rate. So he told Congress, he said, there's this congressman named Boskin who started this commission and said, hey, Congressman Boskin, figure out a way where we can understate inflation. So they did. They understated it so much, but with substitution. So let me give you a quick little story because this is important to everything we're talking about today. So the consumer price index, the inflation measure that we see, that the current administration says it's coming down, and we're winning this war, but our pocketbooks don't tell us. Why? Because of substitution bias that President Clinton put in place. So let's say that steaks, the filet mignon, were part of the consumer price index, and price of steaks went up 40%. Well, so they went up 40%. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics says, hey, we can't have steaks in this mix. We got to pull it out of there. Let's substitute it for hamburger. Hamburger happens to be 30% less than steak, right? So what did they say happened to the price of steak? In reality, it went up 40%. They said it came down 30 because they changed what they were measuring, right? So if you compare apples to apples, today inflation is truly around 20%, not 5%, like the official measurements say, 20%, which means interest rates, if they want to use interest rates to slow down this inflation train, they have to raise them to over 20%. It's a monster that they created, because inflation is created by printing money without discretion, without any tangible backing. Always has, always will be. Takes more of that cheapened currency to buy valuable goods and services. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I don't know if you watched the Super Bowl, man, but I was watching the Super Bowl, and there was this commercial for the new Jurassic Park movie that came on. So I love the Jurassic Park movies, right? So it's like always cool. It's like you hear the thump and the thunder, and then the footprint in the mud, and it's like, oh, nuts, there's a big dinosaur, right? So Jurassic Park, they created these dinosaurs for people's enjoyment to go to this park and see it. But then the dinosaurs got out of control and started eating everybody, and they couldn't control them. This is inflation. They created the inflation. Now they can't tame that beast. They can't without massive harm to the economy. The only way to stop inflation is to stop printing money or to raise interest rates higher than the inflation rate, which would be over 20%. They can't do either, right? So there's this crisis that they can't get out of. Now, this brings us to where we are today and moving forward, because how do they fix it? So they've proposed central bank digital currency as a way to fix this. You have to realize the same people bringing in digital currency, digital banking are the same people that have paper money, same central bankers. But how is it going to fix it? Well, it won't. Well, then what's the goal? The goal is people control. And I can prove it in their own words, right? So you go back to 2019. The Federal Reserve in the Federal Register that they published in 2020 basically started the Fed Now app, which is a conduit from you and your money. It's the tunnel to the central bank digital currency, which is a digital version of cash that's programmable, right? So they said in this definition, money is a unit of exchange and it's a hold of value. But they added a new definition back in 2019. What was that? Social control. It's like, what? Since when is money about social control? Well, since they control the purse strings and they want to cut you off from your money from buying or selling based on your ideology, right? So this is all the way back in 2019. Then you fast forward a little bit. You fast forward to the summer of 2020, or actually March of 2020. Dr. Pippa Malmgren from the World Economic Forum made a speech at the World Government Forum in Abu Dhabi where she said central bank digital currency is coming and it's programmable money, meaning we can cut you off from buying or selling if your digital social profile, your ESG, your social credit score doesn't add up to what we want it to be. We'll just cut you off because you're not good for the world, right? We don't want you spending your money. Fast forward then to 2023, this year. In March, the Bank for International Settlements had a project called Project Icebreaker. Project Icebreaker said wires from bank to bank will be cut off, stopped, if the ideology of the use of funds doesn't match up with the global narrative of what we want it to be. What could that be? Maybe they don't like the church that you give to. And they say that church is full of hate speech. They're not part of the global elite. Maybe they don't like the political party you donate to. Maybe they don't like it, Ben, that you might drive a big gas guzzling truck and you're not in it for zero carbon emissions and your carbon footprint's too big. Or what if they don't want you eating all this beef or meat, right? Because they want you to eat vegetables or whatever. You name it. If it's against what they want, they could cut you off from buying or selling. In their words, right? They'll stop the bank wire, right? Then fast forward 2 months after that, May of this year, Project Aurora at the Bank for International Settlements says what? It says, we're going to propose real-time transaction monitoring of every person, of every company, at every bank in every country. It's like, good gracious, that's everybody that has a bank account anywhere in the world. Real-time transaction monitoring. Why? To match up with their ideology so they can cut you off from buying or selling if it doesn't match up. So it's like, wait, how far along this road are we now? Right? So the United Nations, Secretary General Antonio Guterres, he made an announcement last month where he said, you know what, we're going to institute through the Bank for International Settlements, something called a unified ledger. The unified ledger brings all of your assets, your real estate, your stocks, your bonds, your mutual funds, your gold, your silver, anything that you have into a token. Basically, the tokenization process in the cryptocurrency world means they bring all of your financial data into one packet. Now, in normal cryptocurrency like Bitcoin that everyone's used to, that's private. They don't know the source of funds. They don't know the use of funds. They don't even know who the owner is. It's encrypted. Under their model, where they control the data, it's the opposite. They know the source of funds. They know the use of funds. They know the owner. And if they don't like the use of funds, they'll cut you off. So it's not immutable and it's programmable, meaning they can change ownership. This is in their own words, right? And what could cause them to bring this on? Well, the United Nations last month in a pact for the future said by September 15th of 2024, we're going to have our goal written out. It's going to be done. It's going to be implemented, which is a global ID biometric to you that's tied to your bank accounts. everybody in the world is going to have this global ID. And then September 22nd of next year, they're having this Pact for the Future symposium where they're going to brag to the whole world everything that they've done. So let's boil all this down. That kind of sounds to me like Revelation 13:17, where nobody could buy or sell unless they had the mark of the beast, right? It's like, man, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, smells like a duck, it's probably a duck, right? So to me, this is a scary thing. But when you read through the scriptures, God is a God of choice, right? We have the choice to accept Jesus or not. There's benefits from accepting him, consequences of not. We have the choice to sin or not to sin, blessings and curses, right? We have the choice to take this system, this beast system, or not to, or else it wouldn't be in the word, right? God's not going to just say something that's nobody's going to have a choice. He tells us things to prepare us, to protect us, because he loves his children, right? So in all of this egregious nature of controlling what we can buy or sell, taking away our financial freedom, there are states that are rising up now, like Texas, saying we're going to institute a state legislated, state chartered bank that's backed by gold out of the Fed system. Ron DeSantis in Florida said, we're not taking central bank digital currency in Florida. It's a complete loss of privacy. Alaska is doing the same thing. Texas is doing. Utah, Wyoming, Oklahoma, Louisiana, what's the other state? Arkansas, have all said gold we can use as legal tender in these states, right? So already we're starting to see this groundswell of opposition of possibly a system where you don't have to take that stupid beast system. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy to say no, because what if your Social Security is tied to it? And they say, if you want your Social Security, you got to take this, right? This is going to be a hard decision for people, but nothing good in life is ever easy. And it's always hard, right? So, but the point is, this is a time for us to thrive, and God will give us a way to focus on things, because 99% of the hundreds of people that call our office every day, Ben, are consumed and paralyzed with fear, absolutely paralyzed by it. And that's not.
Hey guys, I want to thank one of our sponsors, Old US Outdoor. Now listen, it's extra special to me because it is my oldest son Jordan's company. A couple years ago, Jordan was serving in the military, and as you know, the whole pandemic came along, and there was a lot of debate about whether or not to get the jab, not get the jab, and all that. Some of you may have got it, maybe you didn't. I don't really care, that's up to you. But my oldest son came to me and said, Dad, I am not going to get it. And they had several who got it early on in their unit that it did not go well for them. And it put a lot of fear in a lot of these young men. And Jordan started researching it, and he just decided he wasn't going to. As a result, he was kicked out of the military. It was a long process of everything that happened. There was a lot of mistreatment, but God can take something that is ultimately seems bad and turn it out for good. And that's what happened with Jordan. Jordan decided when he got kicked out, he was going to just do something that he had never done before, and that was launch a company, and he did, called Old US Outdoor. You can go to oldusoutdoor.com. You can buy his latest apparel. He's got great hats, shirts, and all kinds of stuff on there. It is done extremely well. God has blessed them, and it's growing, and he and his wife are doing a great job running it. So I want to thank them for being a sponsor. I want to encourage you to go to oldusoutdoor.com, get your gear, and I know you'll be proud to wear it and support our great nation. Thank you. I think there's such a, there's a lack of, we talk about self-control, of course, when I strive to be healthy, I still twice a year pull into the Taco Bell drive-thru just because it calls me that fourth meal at night. But our government for a long time has not had any self-control. But one of the crazy things is they want to control every aspect of what we do when it comes to our money, our finances. And yet there is no real oversight over what the federal government is doing. And we've been seeing this. I was just in Texas a few days ago, and we had this discussion with some banks who are striving to implement something different. They're literally taking a stand. And with all these scoring systems for these big corporations, government, BlackRock, and we can name a bunch of different organizations who are implementing these things, there is such a challenge for conservative CEOs, conservative companies that they're being targeted. I mean, we could talk about companies like a Chick-fil-A. We could talk about some of these companies who have been known as being companies that are, conservative in their values, and yet it feels like they're going into the woke system, and it's because so much of this is tied into the financial aspects, the banks, and now what they're saying they're going to do according to their score of how they receive these benefits. And I have no doubt you're spot on about the fact that we are going to have to make a decision, and it's not going to be an easy one. And I think that's the challenge for people right now is what do I do with my money? Where do I invest it? How do I make these decisions? Because there's a part of people that says, I just want to bury my money and, in the ground and do nothing with it. But yet I've been involved speaking at the Purpose of Wealth tours for the last couple of years. And one of the things I bring out is there's a great illustration in the Bible where a man gives 3 of his workers talents, and he expects them to go and do something with them. And when we read the scripture, we talk about the talents. We don't think it's much, but when you actually find out what that represents in that time, it was a large amount of money. And one guy goes and buries it and just says, hey man, here it is, I give it to you. The others invested and they doubled what they had. And they were the ones that pleased their master, the other one didn't. And there could be spiritual application to what we do with what God gives us, financial application. The Bible tells us to whom much is given, much is required. We've certainly been blessed, especially here in America. I mean, we have the ability to go out, make money. And so how do we make wise decisions knowing that we're looking at what feels like revelation, and yet there's still opportunities to grow with what we have? How do we find the right companies to invest in? How do we find the right places to put our money into?
Well, it's a really good question. And here's where people are so scared. And they say, Kirk, I've heard you speak on shows and on different things. And I got out of the markets. I got out of the stock market. I got out of the bond market. And I'm just sitting in cash, right? It's like, well, it's kind of like the third servant in that parable that you were talking about. It's like, God didn't call him the stupid servant for just burying his stuff in the sand. He called him the wicked servant. That's worse than stupid, right? It's like, man, I don't want to be the wicked servant. So, but even now, you put your money in cash, banks are failing like crazy. We've seen 5 banks fail already. So having too much cash is not safe. 5, right? Look at the mayhem that was caused. Well, there's 110 banks that are part of the FedNow system already. The Federal Reserve just announced 722 banks where they're 50% loss on their capital over the last quarter. It's like, what? 50% loss? If I were an investor, I'd say I'm the worst investor on the planet if I lost 50% in like less than a year. However, this is the norm for 722 banks. Imagine, even if those economists are the dumbest people on earth, and only 10% of those banks go under, that's still 72. Look what happened when we had only 5 go under. See, we're on the verge of an economic collapse, but this is human nature. When humans, I don't care what religion you are, I don't care wherever you are, right? When you're forced with major catastrophe and you can't afford to feed your babies, you will give up your freedoms generally in exchange for perceived security and peace. This is how Hitler came into power. Hitler came into power during a hyperinflation after World War I in Germany, where the inflation was millions of percent. Mommies and daddies couldn't afford to feed their babies. And what did Hitler do? He campaigned on a campaign promise of hope and change. He said, I'll fix it for you. One of the worst dictators in the history of the world got elected because of a promise that he was going to fix things, but yet he wasn't going to fix things, never intended to fix things, right? But yet people gave away their freedoms in exchange for that without holding a gun to their head. They just gave it away. See, this is where I'm not a fearful person, but this is where I kind of fear, to use the term, where America is right now. People are giving up their freedoms in exchange for convenience, in exchange for this perceived security. But the solution is something so much better, because God created us to thrive, right? So here again, God gives us stories to edify, to build up, to encourage, and to give us strategies for living. So when Jesus was walking on the water, there was this huge storm in the Sea of Galilee, right? And Peter was on the boat and said, Jesus, what are you doing out there? There's this huge, massive storm. And Jesus said, come to me. I think he was talking to everybody on the boat, not just to Peter. So what did Peter do? He was focused on his Savior. He starts walking to him. And then he decided, for whatever reason, to look around and focus on the waves and focus on the storm. And what happened? He started to sink, right? So this is America today. If you focus on the solution, you'll have a smile on your face because it's a beautiful solution. If you focus on the storm, you're going to be gripped and paralyzed with fear, and it's going to affect your relationships and health and everything else, right? So don't focus on the storm. The solution is, to me, right now, actually quite easy. It's not in stocks. It's not in bonds. It's not in mutual funds. They're all coming down because of lowering wages, hiring taxes, higher interest rates, and higher inflation. Those exact things cause gold and silver to go up, right? So over the last 7 months, silver's gone from $17.97 an ounce to almost 24. It's up like 40% in 7 months. Over the last 3 years, silver's gone from $11.91 in March of 2020 to almost 24. That's up over 100% in 3 years. That's like over 30% year average growth. Go all the way back to 2000, this entire century, right? Silver was up $4 an ounce. So man, that's huge, massive, up 600%. I mean, it's massive, right? A 6-fold increase during that time. See, you can have profits. You don't have to worry about what's the stock market doing? How am I going to be allocated here? Is there anything that's actually doing good right now? Yes, there is. So and now that's just the investment side of it. It's doing amazingly well. But when you get out of this digital system where you're no longer a digital slave in their digital world, you have something that's tangible, something that's real, something that you take delivery of, like a 1 ounce silver round or a 10 ounce silver bar. You can use that for barter. In a worst case scenario, if merchants don't want to take your currency anymore because they're evangelicals or Catholics that think this is the mark of the beast, we're not taking it, or the currency collapses like we're about to go into. Most people don't realize last week, the U.S. Treasury got downgraded from AAA to AA+. We're no longer the strongest, safest currency in the world, and we're America. Why is that? Because the BRICS nations are rising up. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, now 20 to 30 other countries pulling away country after country after country out of using the US dollar as the petrodollar. That was our only built-in demand for our currency that caused the lifestyle that we have. We're losing that. So therefore, if you keep this normalcy bias, kind of like, oh, stocks have always worked for me in the past, they're always going to work for me in the future, that's the death knell to a portfolio. We have to be wise stewards. We have to understand the trends, understand the times, act accordingly. If policies change, the trends are going to change. And that's what we've got. This is why we're allocated into silver right now. A, it's doing very well. I mean, the numbers are amazing, but B, it helps you preserve and protect your God-given freedom, your freedom of speech, your freedom of how you spend your money, your freedom of who you give to and how you live and how you spend your own money, right? You don't have that in this new digital world, this big brother Orwellian future that's right underneath our nose. You only have that with a private asset, which is what gold and silver bring to you.
I know you're probably like me. You're looking for something to watch. You flip through the channels. You're going through, what am I going to watch? I mean, I've already seen this. This doesn't sound interesting at all. And if your wife's not in the room, you're certainly not going to watch Hallmark without her. Come on. We barely like watching it with her in the room. What am I going to watch? Well, let me tell you about our latest film, Pardoned by Grace. Now, I have to give a disclaimer. When you turn it on, you're going to see this guy who's playing a cop in a mustache, and man, it looks awful. But that guy is me, so I can say that. But you're going to find a great movie. Pardoned by Grace is the latest Graham Family Films movie. You can watch it on PureFlix, and for the last month, it has been one of the top movies on their platform. I encourage you to go to PureFlix, watch Pardoned by Grace, the true story of Scott Heiberger, who was arrested 35 times. It's an inspiring story. You'll absolutely love it. I hope you'll go and watch it, and I think you're going to enjoy it. They bailed him out with 2.
Heiberger, let's go.
I used to be addict, alcoholic, felon. I know. So what?
Mr. Heiberger, you're back again.
He's racking up the frequent flyer miles.
Every one of us are behind these bars because we fell into some kind of quicksand. Maybe not the real kind, but the spiritual kind.
So you choose to exercise sin. It gets bigger and bigger until it consumes you. So you exercise your faith. Guess what? It gets stronger.
I got something that'll warm you up like a warm blanket. This is the word. This is the bread of life.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dave. I tell you, I sure wish some more guys in the joint could understand what Jesus did so that they too could be saved, you know? Like a prison ministry. We can minister to the prisoners? I sure hope so. God's got a plan, Scott. No rule of man can deny that purpose.
I'm sorry, we have a problem.
It's out of Florida. Some old trouble I had from years ago. Spent my whole life fighting to stay out of prison, and now they won't let me back in. I don't know what's gonna happen.
You do realize that Jonah felt the same, yes? He didn't want to go to Nineveh, so God sent a giant whale to swallow him up and drag him there. I, sir, am your giant whale.
By grace.
Hi, Burger. You're up.
And I think it's so important, you know, the scripture talks about how the borrower is servant to the lender. And, you know, when people can get to a place where they have financial freedom, that also allows them to make not only smarter decisions, but really gives you more courage to stand. You know, I think we could get in talking about politics, and, you know, one of the things that people hate about Trump is he is not a Washington insider. To be honest, though, you know, he had some financial freedom. He didn't have to cow up because of financial aspects. I wish we had more people like that, but just taking it from a personal level. And I want to go back for a minute. I think our listeners would love to hear this. I want to go back to the beginning. How did you get into the financial world? What caused you to want to go get your PhD in this? Like, how did it all start? Did you just like counting money when you was young? I mean, how did it start for you?
No, I hated it. Back in college, I couldn't stand it. But in college, I was a marketing major, right? And then decided I'm going to go to grad school. And I picked this grad school, University of Denver. I knew what I've been a believer since I was 5, right? So I knew what I believed, and I was strong in my faith. And I thought, I want to go to a school where I know I can learn what the enemy is thinking. If I ever want to be an effective tool to overcome the enemy's plans, I want to know how they think. So I went to the University of Denver. You know, Condoleezza Rice went, it's a small little graduate school. Hardly anybody goes there, but it's like upper crust of like the liberal establishment. Condi Rice went there. Madeleine Albright went there. Most of Clinton's advisors went there. They were my professors, right? It's like, oh, wow, I learned a lot, right? But so it was after that I really learned international economics. And then after that, long story made really short. I was in the mortgage industry for a couple of years. That the guy who owned that was kind of embezzling some money and kind of a crook. And it's like, God's my provider, not man. I'm leaving. So I started up my own financial firm. So with that, I started dabbling into gold and silver way back in the late 90s, right? But the financial firm that I worked for, stock and bond mutual fund, just a regular stockbroker, they said, you can't do that. You're selling away. It's like, not selling away. I'm not selling anything. I'm just recommending people go someplace. You don't know what the word selling means, right? So they gave me a cease and desist. Again, God is my provider, not man. So then I called this company that I was recommending. A couple people go put money in gold at the time, way back in the early 2000s. And it wasn't all that it was cracked up to be, right? I was promised a book of business as I went in. It's like, are you going to get all these clients? I got a book of business. It was the phone book that they slapped down on my desk. It's like, here you go. It's like, oh, it's like 250 phone calls a day for 3 years. It's like, this is brutal. But when you have a dream and you're good at it, you'll overcome, right? So I'm watching TV. Jim Cramer's shouting from the rooftops and just yelling, and people are listening to him because he's on TV. So I thought, how can I get on TV? So I said, nobody on TV has a PhD. I'm getting one, right? So it took me like 7 years, but I got it in public policy and administration, focusing on monetary economics. And then because I'm a glutton for punishment, Ben, seriously, I decided if one is good, two might be better. So I got a second one in theology. And this is where, when you blend economics and theology, you get people over profit, which, and in hindsight, makes total sense of the character of who we are as a company. People over profit. If you focus on people, profit automatically comes. Profit's not bad. It's what you do with the money, right? If you focus on profit, people will leave, right? So our goal is to just focus on people, love on people, hear their concerns, their dreams, their goals, their aspirations, and map out a strategy for success that's catered to them. And then everybody wins in that. And so that's kind of the genesis of our company and me, and how we got to where we are now, a really massively large gold and silver provider, and help people reallocate for strength and peace and security in the midst of economic and political storms that we live through every single day.
That's great. By the way, I was feeling good because I have one PhD, but you know what, two? That's amazing. And I, for 5 minutes, feel inspired to go get a second one, but I'm sure in a few minutes it'll fade, and I don't want to go back to school. But anyhow, that's awesome. You know, I know your philosophy is to educate, empower, equip, and engage. And I encourage any of our listeners, if you like to get some financial advice, to check out Kirk Elliott PHD.com, and we'll be sharing more about that at the end of the show. But you know, going back for a minute, talking about the spiritual issues, you know, one of the things is Scripture also tells us that there is going to be coming somebody, the Antichrist, that's going to come, and he's going to convince everybody that he's going to bring ultimate peace, and there is going to be some peace for a while. And, you know, in my grandfather's generation, they would hear things and say, man, you know, the Lord's coming back, and they felt it. I mean, even the disciples, if you look back, they actually thought the Lord might come back in their day, and now here we are 2,000 years later. But we're literally seeing Revelations just unroll right before our eyes. I mean, the things that are happening. And, you know, I heard somebody the other day literally bragging about a chip that they've got that they can put into people now to be able to track their banking system and all that. I mean, they were literally bragging about it on the media. And so we hear these things and we're like, man, it's getting close. And so a question I think that, you know, a lot of our people are looking for is, how do we find stability in this world we live in? I mean, for me, look, God's on the throne. And so with that, there's always hope. You know, there's some believers, man, they live defeated, and, you know, and they're discouraged, and, you know, and to them, nothing great's ever going to happen again. I know that in the last days, the Bible says there's going to be perilous, there's going to be difficult times. I get that. But with God on the throne, I think we always have hope. And right now, while America stands for what we stand for, I think there's hope, you know, for that faith and family and freedom that we all long for. How do you find stability, and how do you encourage people to find stability, not just financially, but just in life in general, when they see all that's going on around them?
Well, again, it's that story of Jesus walking on the Sea of Galilee. Focus on your source. Focus on Jesus, who there's peace in the midst of the storm. I mean, sometimes God calmed the storm, but sometimes he didn't. Sometimes he was just in the peace in the midst of it, right? So focus on the right thing. Don't focus on things you can't control. Focus on things that you can, right? And always know, it's like, God's not sitting up there scratching his gray beard thinking, man, I didn't see any of this coming. Shoot. It's like, no, he's not thinking that. He's giving us a chance where in our weakness, he is made strong. So he wants us to operate in wisdom. And if you don't have it, what does James tell us? It's like, okay, ask him for it. He's a generous father. He's going to give you more, right? So ask for wisdom, ask for discernment. And you know what? It takes boldness and courage, just like Queen Esther, right? I mean, amazing story. One of my favorites, right? Because she put her life on the line to go petition the king. She could have had her head chopped off, right? But she didn't. She asked a request to save a nation. The king heard her request and her people were saved, right? I'm not talking about saving a whole nation, but I'm talking about saving you from your finances, right? By taking a first step, a bold step, a courageous step. But, you know, you do it, somebody else does it. Now we start to get momentum. Now we have momentum, like what you were talking about, your people in Texas that you were talking to. starting transition to an alternative economic system to succeed in these last days economy, right? So here's where I mean, I've thought so much over the last year. It's like, and even growing up as a believer, reading Daniel, reading Revelation, it's like, how in the world could this Antichrist guy really come to power and people like him? I mean, he's not nice. I mean, he wants to strip away people's freedoms. He cuts off their head if they don't believe like him, that the ability to buy or sell or not buy or sell, right? It's like, what does this guy have to offer? Well, he brought peace temporarily. He tricked people, right? But yet in the midst of a storm, people will give up their freedoms, like what we talked about earlier. If the crisis gets so bad and the inflationary pressures that we're seeing are so bad and your banks are failing and you can't afford to feed your kids and you're getting kicked out of your home and maybe you have an adjustable rate mortgage and it just adjusted and your mortgage payments triple what it was a year ago. It's like, what? Now what? God, I can't even afford to live. I didn't save up during the times of fat cows, and now we've got 7 lean cow years coming, and I didn't save up. What do I do? Right? It's like, start, really just start. Because I had my clients range everywhere from a little old widow from Kansas who gave me $300, and it was everything that she had. And billionaires in Texas who own like everything under the sun. They gave me, millions of dollars and it was pocket lint, right? They didn't even know it was gone. Well, my wife asked me once, it's like, which one of those clients is more important? The one you make a big, huge commission off of, or the one who gave you 100% of everything? The answer is neither one of them are more important. They're all equally important. We all have this equal mandate from Jesus, which is to be a wise steward of what we've been given, because we're going to have to look into his fiery eyeballs someday. And we better hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. We're going to be tested. We're going to be judged on our thoughts, on our words, on our actions, on our motives, on all of that, right? So my goal is to get people to this point of confidence in this life and just start the journey, whether it's with $300, whether it's with $1,000, whether it's with $1 million, but get into the right place at the right time and out of this beast-like system and this debt-controlled system, because it is going to get worse, Pastor. It will get worse, but it's going to get better at the end. We know how it ends, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. This is a system based on debt, right? So you look back, 1776, when our country started, we had zero debt. We didn't have time on day one to spend like drunken sailors. We didn't have any debt yet. But now 250 years later, we have $32 trillion worth of debt. But just in June and July of this year, we've added $1 trillion to our national debt. $1 trillion. So you multiply that out times 6, because it's 2 months. That would give you a full year. We're on pace for $6 trillion increase in our debt in 1 year, when it took us 250 to accumulate 32 trillion. It's like we're out of control. And now it's time to pay the piper. Now the estimates, the economists are telling us in 1971, when Nixon took us off the gold standard, our global debt was 7 trillion. Now it's 325 trillion. That's gone up a lot in 52 years, from 7 to 325. But over the next 7 years, by the year 2030, estimates our global debt goes to 3+ quadrillion. It's like, oh. So the curve has gone exponential. It's growing. The interest payments are unsustainable. And so how do you get out of this? You start to get out of debt. If you carry debt when interest rates rise, it will consume you. This is how the Roman Republic fell, right? So, and also then allocate into strength. Get out of the system that they want to control you with. In their own words, the United Nations said last week, or 2 weeks ago, they said, under this new plan, we want emergency authority to act and to institute these plans of controlling people's buying or selling based on what? Based on a health crisis, a global health crisis, based on a climate emergency, based on a black swan event, based on a financial collapse, right? These are their own words. Their own words. They're telling us what is going to come and the emergency of powers that they have to cut off people's communications, their ability to buy or sell under this emergency authority. The creepy part about that is they're putting a time element on money. So imagine a world where they can cut you off from buying or selling. Imagine a world where there's a time element on it. And they say, hey, pastor, you've worked really hard your whole life. You have $100,000 in your bank account for retirement. And they say, but it expires on December 31st of this year. Use it or lose it. What are you going to do? You're going to spend it. See, they can use those kind of policies to stimulate the economy, get everybody spending. You use all your money, your whole nest egg by December 31st. What happens January 1st? You have nothing. Now you're completely dependent on them and their debit and credit system to give you money when they want to. But if you step out of line from their ideology, you're not getting it. See, this is exactly where they want us. Man's economy is all about control. God's economy is all about freedom. What we're proposing here is you reallocate into assets that bring freedom and get out of the ones that bring control. This is where you can thrive and have a smile on your face in the midst of the storm.
Guys, I want to tell you about a really cool event happening in Lebanon, Tennessee on September the 16th, the Red Letter Award Show. This was an award show that's been out in California for a number of years. They honor artists, actors, actresses, all kinds of people in the entertainment world who are willing to put their faith into action. And it's a great event, a lot of great people attending. And this year, I'm going to be hosting the event, and I'm so excited about that. And I'd love for you to join us at the Red Letter Award Show on September the 16th. You can get your ticket by going to theredletteraward.com and come and join us. It's going to be a great night. We're going to have a lot of fun, going to be a lot of great people there. And I encourage you to come and hang out with us and celebrate these wonderful films and music and all kinds of great entertainment of people who are doing great things for the kingdom. Well, Kirk, it's been awesome to have you on here today. I really appreciate your insight, and I encourage our folks to go check out your website. Before I let you go, just tell our folks a little bit about what they can expect when they reach out either through the website or call you. Just tell them a little bit about what they can expect from you guys.
Yeah, so the first step is just get in touch with us, right? You can call 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900. Just say Pastor Graham sent you. Or you can go to the website we put together for your show, kirkelliottphd.com/Graham. And what will you do? You'll request a consultation. You'll request a meeting with one of my advisors. Well, we'll ask you, what are your dreams? What are your aspirations? What are you trying to accomplish here, right? Everyone has the same goal. I don't want my money to go away. I want to be safe, right? So we'll help you map that out and give you a proposed solution. And either you say, yep, works for you, Kirk. Let's do it. Let's move forward. We'll help you cross the T's, dot the I's, move IRAs, non-IRAs, get you allocated into tangible assets. Or you might say, hey, Kirk, I don't like your plan. Take a long walk off a short pier, right? It's like, that's okay, because it's your money. We're here to help and assist and guide. And, I have a thick skin. It's like, I know what my calling, what my anointing, what my gifting is. It's to serve and to bless. And if people don't want it, they don't have to take it, right? It's not a strong arm. It's just like, hey, this is what we've got. But it's a way where thousands, tens of thousands of clients all over the world over the last 29 years have said, yes, let's get out of paper assets. Let's get out of these digital assets and out of this new system. See, 10 years ago, you talked about the mark of the beast. The technology wasn't there. Artificial intelligence wasn't there. Chips in your hand weren't there. I just went to Whole Foods the other day walking home, and there's a palm reader that you can check out with. It's like it reads your palm. It's like, what? How is this my wallet, right? Weird. And now with the new WorldCoin that came out from Sam Altman, who's the originator of open artificial intelligence, the creator of it, you've got people in Tokyo, people in London, people in San Francisco lining up for blocks to have their retina scanned by an orb so their digital ID can be biometrically attached to them in their bank accounts. And like watching a scary movie, it's like, as the viewer, you always know it's like, okay, don't go down that dark hallway. Don't open that door, right? There's a monster back there. We all know that they're going to be eaten, right? Don't go behind that door. But yet there's always some dumb person that opens the door. And sure enough, we know what the end result is. That's how I felt watching videos this weekend of people blocks long getting their retinas scanned for convenience of buying things. It's like, don't do it. But yet people still do. This is our solution. Away from that kind of thing. You don't need that, right? Don't take it. If your bank offers a FedNow app, don't take it. But when you call us, we're going to go over all this stuff, give you a solution, and then my team wants to make the transition easy, the burden light. We'll cross all the T's, dot all the I's, help you move the assets within a couple of weeks. Boom, you're reallocated. And that's where our journey together begins. We don't expect you to watch the markets like a hawk. That's what we do, right? So we'll let you know it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge. And that over time starts to really put a sense of peace and melts away that financial anxiety in people's lives when they realize, I've found a place that thinks like I do, who doesn't listen to mainstream media, who does things a little bit differently, but hopefully is doing things God's way. That's my goal. Wake up every single morning, pray, Holy Spirit, guide me, give me wisdom, give me discernment, give me direction. People's lives are in the balance, and this is what we do with what God has gifted us with. I want my talents to be used to the ultimate and have a generationally impacting statement, right? And that's how we roll here. That's just what we do.
That's great. I love it. Listen, I want to encourage you to go check out my friends Kirk Elliott at kirkelliottphd.com/Graham. They're going to hook you up. They're going to help you. And I know, like me, I like having confidence. There's just something comforting about knowing that my financial affairs are being cared for by somebody who has the same agreement, same alignment with me with faith, family, freedom. And so I encourage you to go check out Kirk Elliott. Kirk, thank you for being with us today. And we look forward to having you again on our show soon.
It's my pleasure. We'll talk soon.
Hey guys, I want to thank our sponsor, Cardio Miracle. Listen, if you're looking for a product that can help your health, helps your heart, it helps your blood flow, it helps people, it's been proven to help people with PTSD and on I could go. If you're looking for a product that can really change the narrative of your health, I want to encourage you to go to the link below at Cardio Miracle. Click on this link. You can find all kinds of information about it. It will change your life. Thank you so much for being a part of our program today, for sticking around and watching. I'm so glad we got to have Kirk on today. And listen, I do want to encourage you. I know that we're living in some crazy times. It really does feel like we're watching revelations unfold before our very eyes. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. There are no guarantees or absolutes when it comes to our money. But one thing that we can rest assured is there is definitely absolutes when it comes to the Word of God. And so I want to encourage you daily to be in the Word of God. Let the Spirit of God feed you and direct you, and pray for wisdom. God, what should I do with my time today? What should I do with my treasures, the money that you give me? What should I do with the talents, the abilities you've given me? And use those for the fullest for His kingdom. Listen, we are living in some crazy times, but we're also living in some wonderful times. Now, the day and time in which we live, the technology we have, the abilities that we have are incredible. We can literally speak to people around the world in just a moment. We can get on a plane and fly around the world and be there in just a few hours. It's amazing the time we live in. And so I want to encourage you today, don't be discouraged by all of the endless, scary possibilities ahead of us. Just remember, God's on the throne. God knows exactly what's going on, and we can trust Him. So rest assured that we can put our faith in Him. He knows what He's doing. He didn't just wake up and find out, oh my goodness, there is a 2023. He knew where we would be at this moment, at this time. And so we can put our faith and trust in Him. We can be sensible with the talents that God has given us, and we can watch God allow those to increase, so that we don't have to be the servant to those that we've borrowed the money from, but rather we can be in control of what God has given us, so that we can better utilize the gifts and the abilities that He's given to us. So we can take the stands that we need to, and we don't have to compromise because of our finances not being where they should be. So let me encourage you with that. Listen, keep your head up. God's on the throne, and I can't wait to see you on our next show.